I am going to break down every Overwatch hero. The rules? Simple. I will show you the ins and outs of each character, their skins, abilities, and general gameplay tips. Each week, a new hero will be pulled via spinner, and I won't stop till I finish. This episode, Junkrat.
It's a perfect day for some mayhem!
Let's start out with his abilities. So, firstly, his passive is Total Mayhem. Basically, he drops 5 grenades when he dies, and each grenade does 60 damage, cannot headshot, and basically, whenever he dies, he just drops 5 grenades. Pretty simple, but kinda useful in the long run. Whenever you have a slight chance to kill somebody, if they're not paying attention, they can get killed by your passive pretty easily, which lands you a pretty good kill, and also very, 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 very embarrassing in the kill feed. Alright, let's move on to his basic attacks. Junkrat's his main attack is the Frag Launcher. It's basically an arcing splash projectile. He's basically a grenade launcher. It does 120 damage per projectile. His projectile speed is 17.5 meters per second, 2 meter radius, and rate of fire is 1.66. He heals 5 ammos and his reload time is 1.5 seconds, but cannot headshot. Now, the very important thing about this basic ability is because whenever he uses it, his bombs are not on a timer. You hear a tick, 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 and then a boom, but it's not on a timer. It happens on a 3-bounce system. Every time that it bounces, it goes and gets rid of a charge. Every 3 charges, and it goes boom. So basically, you only have 3 bounces to get it. Also, Junkrat can be hurt by his own bombs, so be very wary when using them in close quarters, because you could do more damage to yourself than the enemy. Also, because of this, Junkrat can go and spam his abilities as much as he wants because of his fast rate of fire, as well as the fact that they do very high damage in a very low area. Next up, we have his Concussion Mine. Basically, it's a little splash projectile that goes, and after placing one of his homing concussion mines, he triggers it, and it does damage. Basically, it's like a mine. He goes and he pushes a little button, and it goes boom. It can actually go. It has a 3 meters radius, and can push him along as well. It goes and it pushes enemies back, but as well as it affects him, but he does not take any damage from it. Cooldown is 8 seconds, cannot headshot, does 120 damage, and does a splash damage. Now, the reason why I really like this ability is because he basically makes him one of the most mobile champions in the game. He can fly over people, he can send people flying, he can disposition, he can go and reposition. It's honestly just an all-around really great ability. He can use it in many various ways, including just finishing an enemy off, but also pushing them away, such as a Reinhardt. If he walks over the mine, then he can be detonated and push him away from his team. It's a very useful skill that can be used in a lot of situations, but use it wisely because of the long cooldown. Junkrat's next ability is Steel Trap. Basically, he tosses out a little steel trap that will go and basically stuns a man, whoever walks into it, for 3 seconds. It's a root. They can fire primarily, but they cannot use any abilities, and they are stuck there. The cooldown is 10 seconds. Cannot headshot. Does 80 damage when you hit it, and the area effect is 1 meter. Now, this is a very useful ability, specifically because you can just use it and then kill somebody. It's very easy for him to lock down for a chain, such as basically it's a kill shot. If you step on this, you're dead. If he's anywhere near you, you're dead. You can't really do anything else against it, so it's very good. Also, even though it may seem like it's very visible, it's nearly invisible to the enemy team unless they are really looking for it, because it buries itself under the ground to the point where they can't really see it that well. And a good trick is to put your concussion mine directly over it, so that when somebody hits a steel trap, it does 80 damage, and then when you do the concussion mine, it does 150, totaling to enough to kill a tracer or even a 200 health champion, which is very useful in beginning of games when you're just trying to get that one kill to start off the game. And the cooldown isn't all too much, but you should use it sparingly because of the 10-second cooldown. You aren't going to be able to root anything for a little while. Use it when you're back into a corner to go and get an easy kill and do an easy escape. Honestly, it's an all-around great ability, so yeah, I recommend you use it often. Junkrat's ultimate is his Junkrat's ultimate is Riptire. Junkrat revs up a motorized tire bomb in his back and sends it rolling across the battlefield. Climbing over walls and obstacles, he has 100 health and deals 600 damage. Movement speed is 10 meters per second, area of effect 10 meter radius, duration up to 10 seconds, headshot nothing but charge required 1,250 points, which isn't that bad considering how much damage Junkrat does. Now, this ultimate is crazy. It can go and surprise them. If you have a grouped up enemy, they're basically dead. It does 600 damage, which is enough to take down a Roadhog in one hit, which is nearly impossible with a single ultimate. Junkrat's Riptire can be counted very easily though, because it only has 100 health, which is 50 more or 50 less than a Tracer, and it doesn't really have any way of defending itself otherwise than exploding. It has kind of a little bit of a short meter radius. However, you'd be surprised. It does AoE, so anything caught in that blast will be dead basically, and it works very well in groups of enemies. Use it sparingly, but only when you can use it often actually, but only when it's appropriate. such as in big team fights when Azario ult goes down or anything like that, you feel free to use that. It's an amazing ability, and actually one of my favorite ultimates in the game. Alright, let's take a look at some in-game Junkrat. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to actually play Junkrat. Now, because Junkrat relies heavily on mobile abilities, he's very, very mobile. He has a lot of... He just is a mobility champion. He can go and move around very fast, he can move around very nimble, and he can disperse any champions. He's very, 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 very adamant at being able to basically disrupt enemy teams. He works very well against Reinhardt's. He works very well because he can just spam the crap out of his shield and basically take it down really, really fast. He works well against static defenders such as Torbjorn's, Bastions, and Widowmakers, actually, surprisingly enough. He can do very well against mobile champions such as Tracer, and honestly, he can counter a lot of champions in the game if he's played right. However, there are a lot of characters that can counter him, such as Pharah. Pharah can get above him. He can't really aim up very well because he has a grenade launcher. However, if he does get a height advantage on Pharah, he can probably take her down, not with a grenade, but probably with a well-placed concussion mine. Other than that, basically he has one big counter. If he's low to the ground or doesn't have an escape because his concussion mine is on cooldown or his everything else, he's basically dead. If you catch him out, he's pretty much dead. He has very, very range limited, and because his bombs only explode after 3 bounces or when they impact something, it's kind of difficult to put him down, especially if he's out in the open. He does very well in very open areas where there's a lot of ground to cover. He can spam the crap out of his thing, and that's why he's very good on defense. However, he can do very well on offense, as you're probably seeing here. However, he is kind of a wishy-washy person. He needs a lot of skill to play. He is a very, very skill-heavy... People may argue that because of his spam, or because, you know, he can just go and one-shot a Tracer, and that's just normal. Believe me, a damage-boosted Junkrat is not something you want to see. But basically, use his Q is no, not his Q. His ultimate, yeah. You can use it in teamfights. It synergizes very well with a Reinhardt ult or a Zarya ult or a Mei ult because they're locked in place, and all you have to do is just kind of ride your tie in there and explode it. However, it does not do very well with things that spread it out, such as like Reapers or anything like that. But he does fairly well with most champions. The good thing about Junkrat is that he can fit into a lot of team comps. He is able to just kind of slide in there, no problem. And because he is usually a helpful addition to the team, unless they have something like multiple Zaryas or something like that can block his bombs and get a lot of charge off of it, there's not a lot that they can do. I mean, sure, they have a lot of good stuff, you know, like they have abilities to counter him, but Junkrat is a very difficult thing to counter just because of his mobility. He's very difficult to catch out because of his abilities, especially one that like his concussion mine, because he can push himself back as well as push the enemies back to the point where they won't even be able to get him, to the point where he's just gone. Secondly, if he's trapped in a slight corner, do not kill him. If you are gonna kill him in a slight corner, back away immediately because of his total mayhem passive. There have been a number of times that I've died to that, and honestly, it's really embarrassing. You basically just kind of walk a lonely road after that. But so yeah. Junkrat is kind of a difficult character to counter, but a very difficult champion to play. He is one of the better... He's actually my favorite hero in the game currently, simply because he's just fun to play. He has a kind of insane attitude. He's very, very upbeat, kind of. He is Australian, which makes it even more fun, where you're just like, well, that's a fine, how do you do, and then blow them up. He has a lot of voice lines about blowing things up. Like, it's hard to sit there without just knowing that there's something that needs to be blown up. And honestly, I relate to that on a spiritual level. Junkrat is just one of those champions that makes you smile when you play them, simply because he's just fun. He's just fun to play. Probably not in competitive, because he's very subjective in competitive because people know how to counter, but in normal games, he can just devastate. If you have a good Mercy on your team, they'll damage boost you when you're just spamming out the door, and you'll probably get a kill or two just based on grenade spam. Also, there's no better feeling than a Junkrat who just spams out the thing and then just gets a kill randomly. It's amazing. It's just like, that was a bomb that I did. And because his reload time is such a small reload time, and he can do it while he's flying, which is his 1.5 second reload, he can just basically do as much spamming as he wants and do as much damage as he wants, and they can't really do anything about it unless they can get a direct line of sight to him. because his grenades bounce, he can do a lot of angular things, like put him through doorways or put him through other things, but he does the thing that he doesn't have to do a lot of things that, you know, the majority of champions in Overwatch have to do. They have to aim. He doesn't really have to. He can just kind of spread out an entire layer of bombs everywhere, and boom, they're all dead, which is one of my favorite things about it. But basically, Junkrat is just kind of a fun champ to play. He is not easy, and he's not easy to counter. And that kind of goes hand in hand. However, they do have some ways to counter him. Like his Rip Tower can be easily destroyed from a good Hanzo or a good, like a scatter at the foot of a Junkrat ult can kill it instantly. Well-placed McCree can go and just shoot it down instantly. And I've seen the funniest ways that somebody has gotten rid of one is having a Roadhog hook it and take it close to him, and then he just kind of dies. But he does take one for the team. So Junkrat is one of those subjective champions that's easy to learn, hard to master. I am planning on getting a golden gun with him when I reach enough competitive points, but honestly, he's just one of my favorite champions at the moment. He is at a really good space in his damage, he has a lot of good things, but alright, so to recap, basically all you need to do, spam out the door as much as you want, spam, spam, spam. That's all you gotta do. Never let go of the left mouse button if you can help it, unless you're reloading or you need to get out of a tricky situation. But remember, the grenades can do damage to you as well, so don't spam it close in a close area, because then you might do a lot of damage to yourself unintentionally. As well as the fact that there are easy ways to counter him. If you're just looking to counter him, play Pharah, play any of the ones that play characters that can get above him. Tracer, don't pick Tracer against him because he can just delete her instantly, but Zarya is a good pick against him because she can absorb the majority of his bombs, and then his team can absorb the majority of his bombs, and because you spam out the door, you can basically give her charge for nothing. So, in instance, those two are pretty good counters to him, and if you trap him in a room or you use the Zarya ult, or if you use something that would lock him down, he's basically dead. There's no way he's coming back from it. Also, if you put him in a tricky situation where he's limited on his mobility, he's basically dead. So those are the ways to counter Junkrat, essentially. So let's move on to the skins. So, the best Junkrat skin, the best blue one, is the blue one, obviously. The best purple one is Toasted, and the best ultimate one is either Hayseed or Dr. Junkenstein. I really like Dr. Junkenstein, actually. And that about wraps up Junkrat. Basically, all you need to do is keep mobile, keep firing, and don't ever stop blowing things up. And now it's time to pick the next champion for next week. Alright, see ya. Alright, this is the second champion in the entirety of the breaking it down. I've already finished Junkrat, so this is the next one that we have here. Oh, I don't like her. I don't like her at all. This is gonna be a difficult one. Alright, well I hope you guys enjoyed, and ciao.